Hey guys, what's up? How ya doing? I'm here to talk to you guys about my final episodes of Season 1 of the 7 Deadly Sins, Four Nights of the Apocalypse, or Nanatsu no Taizai, Mokushiroku no Yonkishi, which is on episodes 19 to all the way to 24. These episodes took me a while, maybe because I was lazy and I was kind of busy with a lot of things, besides I'm watching anime and manga, I got work, so if anything else, let's just get this started right away. When it comes to episode 19, this is just like I'm looking for the next night of the apocalypse, but unfortunately it was kind of troublesome because there was one man who wore the armor that belonged to Gawain, and unfortunately for Tristan and the others, they managed to find the armor, except a man was in it, and then Kion almost killed him. What the hell is this problem? Yada yada yada. Jeez, man, what an idiot. Other than that, throughout episode 19, we get to see Pelagard, one of the Knights of Chaos of King Arthur. We get to see him trying to pick a fight in order to lure people to him. Most likely, he's trying to lure Percival to him to see what he can do, to see how much he improved. Of course, Percival realizes that he can't really win against Pelagard at all, and before things could escalate any further, we have to it that the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, including Gawain, who apparently is flirting with Isolde, which is a woman, by the way, which is really shocking when I remember reading it in the manga, shows up. And of course, when it comes to the ending of episode 19, the Four Knights of the Apocalypse gather together and face Pelagard. So pretty much when it comes to episode 19 of the Four Nights of the Apocalypse, this just involves finding Gawain and Pelagard causing some trouble. Percival gets lured to his aura and fights him, but could not stand a chance until the other three Knights of the Apocalypse shows up. And then that's the ending right there. When it came to episode 20, let's just say it's a little complicated to see how things went. We get to see the Four Knights of the Apocalypse trying to give one of them, Lancelot, gives Pelagard to get out of here, while Gawain wants to kill him for Pelagard calling her a little girl, and Tristan wants to capture him. As for Percival, he tries to reason with Pelagard, knowing that he's not a bad person. Although he did call him a wicked guy, was he wrong? And then we had to have Pelagard ask Percival, "Hey, so you want me to cut ties with my master and join you? Is that it?" And Percival seems delighted and asks him if he could do that. Pelagard does not take that advice, ends up kidnapping Percival, and flies off. We have to it that Tristan is trying to go after him, but he uses perfect cue to trap Lancelot, Gawain, and Tristan in there. While the Percival group is actually very shocked about this and try to chase after Pelagard, but unfortunately for them, they can't fly unlike him. He has a shield that's flying him everywhere. We had to it. There's a funny scene where freaking Percival gets really upset about this and says, "How dare you trick me?" And Percival's like, "What?" And Pelagard's like, "Wait a minute, when did I trick you?" And then of course that's just a funny moment here and there. As for Gawain, she ends up managing to dispel Perfect Cube no problem after Pelagard placed it onto Tristan, Lancelot, and Gawain. And we have Gawain was trying to kill Pelagard, but Percival doesn't allow that to happen. There's a little bickering amongst the three Knights of the Apocalypse, with Lancelot not being there because he knows that will be okay. And Pelagard ends up actually clashing against Gawain and actually defeats her. Not to a point of killing her, but actually showing her that she's not really invincible, strong, and flawless, And eventually, this caused Gawain to be very upset about the situation and cries like a little brat or a little baby, which apparently I remember seeing this in the manga, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are you freaking serious right now? This is really, really ridiculous. We have to it eventually that, that Gawain is acting like a little brat, unable to accept her defeat, and we have to it eventually that, that Pelagard is actually just being annoyed and overwhelmed by freaking Gawain's brattiness, and then he decides to leave. Tristan, on the other hand, decides to let Pelagard go because he saved Percival from being killed by Gawain. And we have to it that after Pelagard leaves, he tells Percival he'll go after him next time, but Percival refuses and ends up making a funny bleh to him, but also has a mini principle to heal up his wound. Although Pelgar calls him foolish for doing that, we have to it Gawain still crying and upset in anger, knowing that she lost to Pelgar. Percival says, "Oh come on, you losing is not a big deal," but unfortunately, Percival's words fell on deaf ears, and then Tristan decides to calm the situation, saying like, "Oh, you're just off your performance today. Next time you'll be able to defeat him." And I thought it was funny stuff. But we have to it that after, when it comes to dealing with Pelgar, there's another trouble on the loose. And we get to see two characters that were supposed to be dead, or, well, I guess they survived somehow. Two characters from the first season comes back, which is like Melascula and Galan. They end up being like the servants of chaos to King Arthur somehow, which we don't really know how it was possible, but it looks like to me like King Arthur somehow granted them a chance of another life to fight for him, and that is to destroy the 7 deadly sins and the 4 nights of the apocalypse. So that's how episode 20 ends, with Melascula and Galan showing up. When it comes to the rest of the episodes of like the series, this involves like the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse actually fighting against like Galan and Melascula. Of course, King Arthur is also watching from his own kingdom. We have to it that it looks like to me Galan got a major upgrade thanks to the chaos powers that was given to him, and he was becoming a very tough opponent. Lancelot is just watching by because Gawain wants to take on Galan herself. As with Tristan, he actually does become a little awkward when it comes to like fighting Melascula. I'm not gonna explain much, but all I know is when Melascula gives a compliment towards his mother, he actually is very like amused by this and says, "Hey, my mother's great, you know." I'm like, oh my lord, dude, he's very complicated and awkward. But I guess that's just him. Other than that, we have to it that Lancelot could be involved with the fight, but he actually tries to like mess with the minds of Melascula and Galan because they don't remember what the previous lives were like until like Lancelot in a different form and fooling them, showing them that they are like different people. And this somehow gives the advantage possibly against Melascula and Galan, or whatever the case is, but they managed to actually defeat them. Well, in episode 21, that is. However, that becomes another story because that's where episode 22 comes in. Of course, throughout episode 21, it involves the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse taking on Melascula and Galan. Now, when it comes to episode 22, we get to see a former ally turned enemy, sadly. Of course, there was a scene with, like, freaking Tristan's platoon, you know, Keon and Jade. Keon being a troublemaker because that's what the heck he is. And I will tell you this, he does get really annoying down the line. I will tell you that in the future. He does get a little annoying down the line, but I hope he grows out of it. Who knows? But we have to it that the enemy in episode 22 shows up, and that her name is Jericho. This is revealed after Gila, who apparently is a holy knight of Leonis under Meliodas, ends up showing up and tries to take her on. Unfortunately, if I had to put it in simple words, while Gila does show great skill in her swordsmanship and using her magic and able to use the demon blood that was within her because she got her powers from a demon, if you remember correctly from season 1 of the 7 Deadly Sins, unfortunately Jericho's mastery of her magic that she inherited from her brother or from her family defeats Gila, but not before she could deliver a killing blow. We had to it. Lancelot shows up to Jericho and ends up talking to her, and we get to know what happened between Lancelot and Jericho very much. I mean, there was a certain backstory that was never animated, but it was shortly explained in this episode where Lancelot and Jericho were actually in a situation where they can't seem to escape from, and throughout the time they were gone for about 3 years or so. And that is when Lancelot respects Jericho very much because she pretty much took care of him tremendously. But Jericho sadly confesses to Lancelot in her mind, with Lancelot reading her heart and mind, that Jericho, throughout her time when spending time with Lancelot, when they were trapped in a situation very long ago, is that Jericho fell in love with Lancelot. Even though the age gap is very, very big, she actually fell in love with Bond and Elaine's son, which is kind of sad if I even think about it, because throughout her time, she did fall in love with Bond, but I guess that love was never reciprocated, and now she's fallen in love with Lancelot, but she knows that love will never be reciprocated as well, because Lancelot sees Jericho nothing more than a mentor and an elder sister, which is really, really sad. And when it comes to Jericho, she became an enemy to Meliodas and joins up with Arthur because he could give her the world where Lancelot only loves her. And Lancelot was actually very shocked and astonished, or something like that, was to see Jericho really loved him as a man. And that I know that it's not going to happen. And of course, Lancelot says that though Lancelot was trying to tell Jericho that the world that Arthur is planning to give her is nothing but fraud. And this upsets Lancelot very much, and Jericho ends up disappearing, and he screams out Arthur's name in total anger and rage for causing more grief upon him. So yeah, when it comes to episode 22, I'll try to put it in simple words. Jericho infiltrates the Kingdom of Leonis to rescue a Knight of Chaos, but the Knight of Chaos cannot escape, and he therefore tells Jericho to kill him. Therefore, after Jericho faces off against Gila and Tristan's two Holy Knight platoons, which apparently they never stood a chance against her to begin with. Even though Gila has mastered her powers of demons and her explosive magic, Jericho's mastery of her ice magic was more advantageous due to the fact that she must have trained way harder than her, considering that the power that Jericho inherited was, I guess, legit compared to Gila getting her power from a demon, if you even think about it. Now, when it comes to the rest of the episode 22, between Lancelot and Jericho, we get to know why Jericho turned to King Arthur's side, or become a Chaos Knight, or Knight of Chaos, because Arthur would give Jericho the world she wants, and that is Lancelot loving her and her alone. And we get to know why she fell in love with Lancelot. I guess that's just how it is when she spent a lot of time with him when they were in a different situation of being trapped in another world for about 3 years from what I remember. And Lancelot pretty much shocked to see that Jericho really loved him as a man, and knows that Lancelot will not reciprocate that love because he loves her as a mentor and a sister. So, pretty suckish, and that's the reason why. Sorry if it's a little complicated. So, in other words, Jericho joins up with King Arthur to give her the world she needs for Lancelot to love her alone. Because Lancelot will not love her back, because that's never going to happen. And that causes Lancelot to be in total rage and grief because of what Arthur just did. And that's the entirety of episode 22. Now, episode 23. We have to it that even though Galan and Melaska seems to be defeated, they unfortunately somehow come back and fuse together, become one whole monster, and becomes a very tough being to fight. Even the four Knights of the Apocalypse, 3 of them stood no chance at all. Although, eventually with the help of other people and Nasian's power, they managed to actually stand a chance. They actually do some heavy damage, or maybe do some annoyance towards Melagalan, or the fused beings of Galan and Melaskla, or Melagalan. Yeah, pretty much Melagalan. But as per Percival, it looks like to me he's actually doing some hefty damage to Melagalan after waking up and getting healed up by Nasians, because his magic power seems to be improving tremendously, to able to help other people and to actually put up a fight against Melagalan. That was the entirety of episode 23. Episode 23 involves Melagalan and people of the Holy Knights trying to fight it, but unfortunately couldn't do anything to it until Percival finally gathers enough magic of hope and able to fight Melagallon. When it comes to episode 24, it looks like to me Melagallon wasn't really using their full strength, and they actually end up using most of the magic power. But Tristan, who apparently finally wakes up, decides to take on Melagallon himself, and he easily dispatches Melagallon like no tomorrow. Like the moment he used his demon powers is where he becomes a major major trump card for the Kingdom of Leonis to fight against Melagallon. Sadly though, when it comes to using his demon powers, he loses control. Like, all of his reasoning, his ruthlessness and no mercy towards an enemy increased tremendously, stating like, I'm gonna kill you, so you better enjoy whatever life you have left. As usual, as Meliodas would use his demon powers, if you remember correctly. When Meliodas was in the assault mode, if you remember correctly, in the Nanatsu no Taizai, he was ruthless, and Tristan shows that ruthlessness tremendously. And we have to it after Melagallon was dispatched by Tristan easily. We have to it King Arthur shows up and says hello. Percival, realizing that Arthur is the reason why he lost his grandfather, ends up charging at him in total anger, but gets pushed aside by Arthur's protection barrier. Tristan tries to fight King Arthur head on, but unfortunately for him, he suffers the same amount of damage like Percival. He gets pushed back by a protection barrier by King Arthur himself. We have to it that everyone was trying to charge at King Arthur, but King Arthur ends up using some kind of magic that involves a golden-like aura that he's using of chaos ability, and he ends up he managed to get everyone to freeze where they're at and says, bow down to your supreme king. This caused Percival to be very angry about this and screams in total anger and hatred for doing this, screaming out Arthur's name. And the episode ends off there. I gotta say, I'm kind of glad that I did not watch the entirety of season 1, even though it wasn't licensed or something like that, because the way how it ended off in the cliffhanger and the fact that I'm finishing it today and season 2 is coming out. I hear that's going to be released on Netflix. I'm not so sure. I have yet to figure that out. Not to mention, it's really hard to find any. I can't really find the site to even watch it right now, but we'll see. I did my research that season 2 of the Knights of the Apocalypse is supposed to show up possibly today on Netflix, although I'm not really sure if that really is the case. Sometimes the source material might be wrong, but we'll see. I'll figure it out. I mean, if it does show up, I'll be sure to watch it and then tell you guys about it too. So anyways, not too bad for season 1 of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse adaptation. I thought it was pretty cool. Now, when it comes to new characters and a new adventure, I guess it's pretty fun depending on how you look at it. I mean, who knows? Anyways, that's about it. I finally finished it. I think season 1 was a nice start, although I'm pretty sure not everyone's going to have that same feeling when it comes to the original 7 Deadly Sins. I can't blame you for that, considering that when it comes to sequels, it could come out bad or worse. I'd say it has a okay start for now, although there's more down the line of what's to come. So yeah. Anyways, thought season 1 was okay. Not just gonna leave it like that. So until then, people, I'll see you guys in the next video. So I'm Alpha Zero. Have a good day. I'll see you guys next time. All right. Peace out. Bye bye. Toot-toot-oo.